I used to think the living room couch was temporary. Just a few nights, I told myself. A misunderstanding, an overbooking, some kind of logistical error my parents hadn't explained yet. The first time I came home from campus and found my room locked, it was a shock. There was a white towel folded neatly on the handle. The hallway smelled like artificial lavender. Not the cheap plug-ins my mom always used, but something fancier, like hotel spray. I knocked once, thinking it was my sister, or maybe my dad, fumbling around with a new cleaning routine, but a woman I had never seen before opened the door. "Oh, sorry," I stammered. She smiled, confused. "Are you the host's daughter?" The word stuck in my throat like dust. I nodded slowly and stepped back. Later that night, my mom gave me the runaround, something about opportunities and short-term rentals, while they tried to make use of the extra space. My dad avoided eye contact, busying himself with the remote. My sister Ava didn't even look up from her phone. They had rented out my room, on Airbnb, and they hadn't told me. The couch wasn't even a full couch, more of a sagging love seat with dog hair still wedged into the fabric. The first night, I used a throw blanket and a couch cushion. The second night, I brought out the old sleeping bag from the garage. By the third, I was waking up with aches in my back and a new kind of heaviness I couldn't name. It wasn't just discomfort. It was the slow, awful realization that they hadn't even thought I'd mind. One morning, I heard a guest walking down the hallway in my robe. The robe my grandmother had given me when I graduated high school. The one with my name stitched into, the sleeve in soft silver thread. She wore it like it was hers. Hair in a towel, sipping coffee from my mug. The navy one with the chipped lip that said introvert fuel. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, barefoot on the cold tile, staring through her like she was glass. She didn't even flinch, just offered a casual smile, like I was the outsider, and I guess I was. That weekend, my mom sat me down, with her calm voice, the one she used when she was about to say something cruel and pretend it was kindness. "You're not here most of the time," she said gently, folding laundry in perfect squares. "And this way, we can make a little extra money. We're not pushing you out." I looked at the laundry. None of it was mine. "I paid for the new fridge," I reminded her. "And the water heater, and the tax bill last fall." She blinked. "And we're grateful. We are. But it's not like you don't have the couch." That night, I lay on the love seat with my arm cramping beneath me, watching the ceiling. Every time I shifted, the springs creaked. I thought about how I used to clean the gutters for them every autumn. How I'd taken on 2 part-time jobs just to keep up with my tuition so they didn't have to cover it. How I skipped going abroad for a semester because we can't manage things here without you. Now, apparently, they could. They just needed me to be invisible while doing it. I heard laughter from down the hall. A man's voice. The guest this time was someone loud, someone who cooked late and left pans in the sink. I'd washed his dishes yesterday because my dad didn't feel like dealing with it. I closed my eyes and let the silence build in me. Not anger. Not yet. Just stillness. Like the first frost before the snow. I started leaving the house earlier than I needed to. There was nothing peaceful about waking up to the sound of a stranger showering in your bathroom, especially when that bathroom had once been yours, the only safe place where you could breathe behind a locked door. Now it smelled like their shampoo, their perfume, their foot scrub by the sink. I kept my toothbrush in my backpack. I began brushing my teeth at the campus library. No one asked me why. At first I thought they just hadn't realized how cruel it was. That maybe my mom, in one of her spiraling attempts to keep the house afloat, had fallen into something impulsive. That my dad, passive as always, was just letting it happen. That Ava, well, Ava had never really needed a reason to not care. But then I overheard my name. It was Sunday afternoon. I was folding laundry, towels that smelled like someone else's detergent, when I heard my mom on the phone in the kitchen. "She's fine," she said, voice low. "She's barely here anyway. It's not like she's really part of things." There was a pause and a small laugh. "I mean, she doesn't even bring friends over. No boyfriend, no social life, just books. She won't mind. She's used to being on her own." That part was true. I was used to it. But I hadn't realized how proud they were of pushing me into that corner. How they used my solitude like permission. It made it easier, I guess, to sell pieces of me while pretending I didn't exist. I stopped, helping around the house. I used to change the air filters, scrub the grout, declog the hair from the bathtub that no one else ever noticed. I stopped all of it. Let the dust collect on the shelves. Let the trash linger a little longer. Let the guests complain to them for once. About the leaky faucet, the flickering light, the door that didn't close all the way. My dad asked me once, annoyed if I was gonna fix the damn sink or not. I looked at him, really looked, and said nothing. The couch got colder in December. No one asked if I needed a better blanket. No one offered to let me take Ava's room for a night. Hers sat empty most of the time now that she was with her boyfriend in Seattle. It was always my room that got rented. Always me that was expected to give something up. I started to think about the money. The guest rate was $89 a night, sometimes $99 if it was a weekend. There was a calendar visible on my mom's laptop when she left it open one night. Every square was filled. And suddenly, the math made sense. I was worth more to them this way. Quiet, uncomplaining, sleeping on a second-hand love seat with a torn seam and springs that bruised my spine, while they pocketed $600 a week from strangers using my sheets and my dresser, and the quiet, book-lined walls that once felt like home. I never said no. And so they took everything. But the silence I gave them, it was starting to take shape, not as a scream, but as a decision. And decisions, unlike fights, don't go away. They settle. They become bones. They walk with you. I started keeping a ledger. At first, it was just a line in my journal, a running list of expenses I'd covered for the house over the last 2 years. Nothing dramatic, just a quiet audit of everything they conveniently forgot. Winter's $200. New fridge when the old one died over Thanksgiving. $326. Plumber call for the bathroom leak they ignored until it flooded Ava's closet. $498. Property. Tax gap payment when they misplaced the bill. $700. Contribution for repainting the guest room. My room. The total sat at over $3,000. I didn't even write down the groceries, the cleaning supplies, the dozens of rides I'd given, Ava to the airport or the dentist, the sacrifices that didn't come with a receipt. This wasn't for confrontation. It was for memory, because the longer I stayed quiet, the more they rewrote the past. One night, the guest came in late. I was half asleep on the couch, headphones in, trying to block out the world. But I heard the key fumble, the click of the door, the rustling of plastic bags. She had groceries, not just snacks. A full haul, vegetables, condiments, even a ceramic olive oil dispenser that matched my mom's kitchen tiles. I watched unmoving as she loaded the fridge, like she lived here, and maybe she did. More than I did, anyway. That weekend, Ava came back. From Seattle, she strolled in wearing new boots, fake lashes, the kind of coat that made you feel poor just by looking at it. She gave me a tight smile and tossed her bag on the floor like I was the maid. "Still on the couch?" she said, half laughing. "Damn, they really booted you." She said it with a smirk. No sympathy, no shock. Just amusement, like I was some distant cousin in a sitcom, playing the role of pathetic fallback child. I didn't answer her. Instead, I stared at the guest list on the kitchen whiteboard behind her. Check-in, sat 3 p.m. Check-out. Wed 10 a.m. Room freshened? It was written in my mom's handwriting. Underneath it, a post-it note with my name. Ask her to vacuum, check linens. I walked past Ava without a word, tore the post-it off, crumpled it, threw it into the trash. That night, I went back through my ledger and added something new, plus emotional rent. 365 days, X silence, X erasure. No price, just a symbol. Because how do you charge for losing your place in your own home? For becoming a background character in your family's house? The guest that week had a boyfriend. He showed up halfway through her stay and parked in my spot. No one asked me if that was okay. No one even mentioned it. I spent the night circling the block in the cold until I found an open space 3 streets over. My hands shook so badly I had to sit in the car an extra 5 minutes just to calm down. When I finally walked in, the guest was laughing in my room. The laughter filtered through the hallway like a spotlight, reminding me, again, that I was the only one still pretending this was normal. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even speak. But I opened a new tab that night on my laptop. I typed in something simple. Tenant rights. Unregistered Airbnb rentals. Family property. Laws. Then I closed it. I wasn't ready yet. But the storm was turning, and this time, I wouldn't be the one drenched. The next morning, I started folding my laundry in the library. There was something almost reverent about it. The tables were smooth, silent. The light from the windows soft enough to feel like mercy. I laid each shirt down like it mattered, even the old ones with bleach spots or stretched collars. At home, they ended up in piles on the floor, or stuffed behind the couch, or worse, in the guest's laundry, accidentally claimed by women who wore my perfume and never looked me in the eye. I don't know when it stopped feeling like my house. Maybe it never was. Maybe I was always just borrowing space between their decisions. I remembered being 8 years old, trying to hang a drawing on the fridge. My mom pulled it down before company came, said it looked messy. But Ava's stick figure art stayed taped to the cabinets for weeks. I remembered the birthday when no one showed up because Ava had a swim meet. I blew out candles in silence, pretending the dark made it feel special. I remembered the college, brochures I left on the kitchen table, the ones that disappeared without a word. They never said no. They just never asked again. It was always like that. Not rejection, just deletion. By Friday, my patience was gone in quiet layers. That week's guest left the stovetop greasy, the sink full of half-eaten pasta. My dad barked from his recliner. "Can you handle that?" I looked at him, then looked away, and I didn't lift a finger. The laundry room was full again, sheets, towels, pillowcases I hadn't slept on in months. I stood there, staring at the washer, trying to remember what it felt like to do chores for people who saw you, not just expected you, not just used you. Saturday night, Ava had friends over. They laughed loudly, shared drinks, blasted music, danced barefoot in the kitchen like they were 16 again. I wasn't invited. I wasn't acknowledged. At one point, I walked in to refill my water and one of her friends flinched like I was a stranger. "Is she one of the guests?" she whispered. Ava snorted. "No, that's just my sister. Couch girl." The whole room laughed. I didn't. I left the house at midnight and didn't come back till dawn. Just walked. Block after block, under orange streetlights and quiet dogs barking behind fences. I let the silence stretch out until it felt like something real, something I could wear like armor. When I got home, the party was over. The place reeked of liquor and perfume, but no one was on the couch. For a second, I thought, maybe they'd remembered. Maybe someone had made a space for me again. But then I saw the pile of coats dumped on the cushions. Ava's voice floated from down the hallway. "Oh, don't worry about her. She'll figure it out." I stood in the hallway for a long time. The lights were off. The night was cold, and I realized I was no longer waiting to be let back in. I was starting to look for the door. I started keeping my shoes on in the house. It sounds small, but it changed something, like I wasn't settling in anymore. Like I was always ready to leave. Like I wasn't theirs to command or dismiss because I wasn't staying long. Ava rolled her eyes when she noticed. "Seriously? Shoes on the carpet?" But she said it half laughing, like I was a guest again. That part, she got right. The last. Guest left a review. I saw it in passing. My mom left her laptop open again, probably without realizing I'd see. A 5-star rating. Room was clean, cozy. Bathroom well-stocked. The girl on the couch was quiet. The girl on the couch. Not their daughter. Not part of the home. Just another amenity. A feature to note in the description. I hadn't slept. Well in weeks. It wasn't just the couch. It was the way every sound in the house now made me tense. The door opening. Keys jangling. Laughter in my hallway. I started waking up before my alarm. Adrenaline already flooding before the day began, so I started leaving earlier. Campus library at 6. Coffee at 7. Library again till 10. No one texted. No one called to ask where I was. No one noticed when I didn't come home for 3 days. I stayed with my friend Lena. She had a studio near campus. Nothing fancy, but it had a door that locked and a bed that was hers. She gave me a blanket, without asking why I was shivering. She didn't need me to explain why I'd only packed a duffel bag, or why I flinched every time a door closed too hard. She just made tea and said, "Stay as long as you need." I cried that night. Not because I was hurt, but because I had forgotten what it felt like to be considered. Back at the house, no one called. When I finally went back, after 4 days, nothing had changed. No one asked where I'd been. My mom was in the kitchen, scrubbing out a pan that didn't belong to her. "Oh," she said, glancing up. "You're back. Not I missed you. Not are you okay? Just, you're back." Like I was a bag returned from a delayed flight. That night, I stood in the hallway and stared at my door. My room. I could hear the guest inside, on the phone, laughing. She'd hung something over the window. My posters were gone. There were flowers on the desk, a scarf over the lamp for soft lighting. It didn't look like mine anymore. And maybe it wasn't. The next morning, I didn't make coffee. I didn't fold laundry. I didn't take out the trash. I sat on the couch, still in my coat, shoes on, and opened my laptop. Not for class, but for paperwork. Quiet clicks, quiet scrolling, an email to the landlord, an inquiry to the Airbnb trust and safety team, a record of payments I'd made, receipts, screenshots, names, and a title. Violation of tenant use and unauthorized subletting of shared residence. No rage. No notes left on the fridge. No screaming match in the hallway. Just documentation. Just silence. Just truth. My mom started to notice something was off when the messages began arriving. First, it was an email, then a second one, then a warning banner on her Airbnb dashboard. She called out to my dad in the middle of his football recap. Something about needing to verify ownership and submit proof of authorization. Her voice was sharper than usual, not panicked, but strained. I didn't say anything. I just sipped my tea from across the room and pretended not to hear. By Tuesday, the listing had been paused. Temporarily, according to the site. Pending documentation. That night, the house felt unsettled. Too quiet. Like it knew something was shifting. My mom didn't hum while cooking. My dad didn't turn on the TV. The guest, who was scheduled to check out on Wednesday, asked if she could extend her stay. "I'd love to stay through the weekend," I overheard her say. My mom gave her a polite excuse, something about family visiting, needing the room. But I saw it in her face. She was scared, and she didn't know where the fear was coming from. The next morning, I printed the receipts. It felt ceremonial, like I was pressing leaves between glass. I stacked them neatly in a file folder. Payments for utilities, repairs, grocery runs logged by card. I highlighted my name where needed. Attached photos. Sent it all to the landlord with a short, professional note. Just confirming tenant contributions and current living conditions, including shared space usage and room occupancy changes. Please advise if further documentation is needed. I wasn't sure if he'd seen the listing, but he had now. My mom knocked on my bedroom door the next evening, not the guest room door, not Ava's door. My door. The one that had stayed locked and rented for 6 months straight. I'd reclaimed it that morning, before she woke up. The guest had checked out. No one else was scheduled. The sheets were still warm. So I took it back. No announcement. No permission. Just my name on the door again. She stood there, clutching a laundry basket like a peace offering. "I didn't realize you were planning to move back in here," she said, cautious. I looked at her. Steady, flat. I never moved out. There was silence. Then, a flicker of something in her eyes. Like she knew on some level that I was no longer playing the part. I wasn't their help. Wasn't their backup child. Wasn't their invisible tenant. I closed the door gently. No slam. No drama, just a soft click of separation. That night Ava texted me. "What's going on with Mom? She's freaking out. Said you sent something to the landlord?" I didn't reply. She sent a second text, then a voice memo, then a missed call. Still, I said nothing. Because sometimes silence is the loudest answer. When I lay in bed, my bed, that night, I could still smell lavender on the pillowcases. But beneath it, I could feel something else returning. Dignity. It didn't come back all at once. It returned like muscle memory, like breath after being underwater, like warmth in a room that finally felt like it might belong to me again. If only for a little while longer. The file folder I had sent to the landlord triggered more than I expected. 3 days later, a formal notice arrived. Not addressed to me, but to my parents. It came in a crisp white envelope, slid through the door just after breakfast. My mom opened it at the kitchen table, still in her robe. I watched her face tighten as she scanned the lines. No yelling, no theatrics. Just the sound of silence expanding. I left before she could say anything. Walked 2 blocks down to the corner coffee shop and ordered a drink I could barely afford. A small rebellion that tasted like cinnamon and clarity. I sat by the window for hours, watching people pass, their coats drawn tight against the wind. There was a calm I hadn't felt in months. Not joy, not relief, but something still. Something settled. Like the ground beneath me had finally stopped shifting. When I came home, the whiteboard was gone. The one in the kitchen with the guest list and chores. The hallway no longer smelled like hotel spray. The door to my room, was closed. The key back on my nightstand where it used to live. I knew better than to celebrate. But I also knew something had cracked. Not just the listing, something in them. Ava was already there, hunched over the kitchen island, scrolling on her phone like she was waiting for a storm to pass. She glanced up as I walked in, her mouth tight. "You happy now?" It wasn't a question. It was a verdict. I didn't answer. I hung my coat, opened the fridge, poured a glass of water. My hands didn't shake anymore. "You ruined everything," she muttered. "Mom's a wreck. Dad's threatening to take your name off the account." I turned slowly to face her. "It's not my name on the account. I was never on it. Just the bills." She blinked, thrown off. And for once, she didn't have a comeback. That night, my mom asked me to join her in the living room. She was sitting stiffly on the couch, the same couch I'd curled into for months, barely sleeping, biting my tongue until it bled. Now she looked smaller than usual. Not physically, just diminished. "I didn't think it would hurt you like this," she said. Not an apology, just a quiet justification. I nodded once. Then, after a long pause, I said, "That was the problem." She didn't ask what I meant, because she already knew. She'd always known. She just never thought it mattered. I went to my room and closed the door. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up an apartment listing I'd bookmarked months ago. It wasn't perfect. Too far from campus, too small, too quiet. But it was mine if I wanted it. I hovered over the apply button, then clicked save, not submit, not yet. Because sometimes healing doesn't mean leaving. Sometimes it just means knowing you can. Spring came slowly. The windows fogged less in the morning. I could hear birds again outside the kitchen, soft and early, threading their way into the silence that had settled in our home. No guests had returned. The listing was gone. Not paused, deleted. The whiteboard stayed in the garage. The door to my room stayed closed when I wanted it that way. No one tried to open it anymore. Ava left again for Seattle and didn't say goodbye. My dad stayed quiet most days. The remote now a kind of armor he used to disappear into his chair. And my mother. She moved differently now. Softer, but more cautious. Like every word she chose had weight. Like she knew the silence between us wasn't temporary. One afternoon she knocked again, this time with a small box in her hands. A collection of things that had once been mine but ended up in other drawers, other hands. A framed photo of me at 10. My old copy of Jane Eyre, still dog-eared. The navy mug with the chipped lip. I took the box. She didn't say much, just hovered in the doorway for a moment and then said, "You can have it all back. I should have asked sooner." I didn't nod. I didn't forgive. But I didn't shut the door either. That was enough. The apartment I'd saved stayed in my bookmarks for weeks. Then one morning, without thinking too hard, I clicked apply. No big speech, no announcement at breakfast. I didn't tell them until the lease was signed and the key was in my palm. "I'm moving out next week," I said, standing in the doorway of the kitchen. My mom blinked. My dad didn't look up. Just a pause. And then, "Okay." That was all. Moving day came. Lena helped me pack. We didn't talk much, just folded, lifted, taped, carried. I didn't have that much. Most of it I had already learned to live without. But the things that mattered, the small box, the laptop, the ledger I no longer needed, those came with me. We fit everything into one car. It didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a reclamation. I didn't leave a note. No long letter taped to the fridge. No dramatic goodbye. I just left the house. The way they had treated me. Quietly, without a trace. That night, in the new apartment, I lit a candle. A small one. Lavender. It smelled nothing like theirs. I stood by the window and looked out over unfamiliar rooftops and unfamiliar streets. I didn't miss the couch. I didn't miss the hallway. I didn't miss the girl who waited for permission. I slept in my own bed that night. My own sheets. My own silence. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to earn it.